Some apartment stories are about strange noises, weird neighbors, and things you can explain away. What happened to me last October across? They all changed everything I believed about city life. I grew up believing city apartments were noisy, but safe people everywhere. Always someone awake, a neighbor close by. When I finished college, I moved into a 6th-floor studio. The hallway was lined with identical dark doors, and a single narrow window facing another old building. Across the hall from me lived a middle-aged woman named Mrs. Foster. She smiled but was always tense, clutching her purse and rushing inside. For my first month, things were normal. Then autumn heat rain fell daily, and nights grew colder, longer, and heavier. It started with small things. I'd hear muffled voices in the hallway every night around 2 a.m. Much later than anyone should be awake. Mrs. Foster's apartment always had its blinds shut tight, but once, when I forgot my keys and waited nearby, I saw a hand tap the glass from the inside slow, deliberate, like tracing something against the window's condensation. One night, I woke up thirsty and stepped out to grab water from the vending machine by the elevator. As I passed the whole window, I saw someone staring back from the building opposite. It was too dark to see their face, but the way they stared and moving, head tilted sideways, felt wrong. Primera looked Hawaii, but as I pressed the button for water, I felt a chill. I turned around and the figure was gone. Walking back, Mrs. Foster opened her door halfway and whispered, "Don't look at the windows after 2 Not anymore." She closed the door before I could ask anything. Over the next few nights, chest-pounding dread grew. I started hearing tapping delicate, almost like Nilza on my own window. But I lived 6 stories up, with no balconies nearby. It always happened exactly at 2:17 a.m. I timed it. One stormy night, as I fought insomnia, my phone buzzed. A motion alert from the hallway. I checked the camera feed. Someone was standing in the pitch-black hall, facing the window. Their arms hung stiff, head cocked at an unnatural angle. My palms sweated as I watched. The figure walked to Mrs. Foster's door, paused, then turned and vanished down the stairwell. Trying to calm myself, I peeked through my peephole. There was nothing except a series of wet footprints leading from the elevator toward the window. After that, every night brought new terror. I'd hear scraping on the walls, like someone trying to claw through from the next-door unit. One time, I saw my own reflection in my window, but behind me stood a shadow, talentine eyes glowing faintly. When Primera turned, no one was there. I tried telling the building manager. He only said, "This hall's always had problems. Tenants leave suddenly. Say they see things." Desperate? I asked Mrs. Foster for help. She finally opened her door, pale and trembling. She said, "He used to only visit that building during storms, but now he's here. He wants to be remembered. He wants to be let in." She handed me a note. "Never open your window after midnight. Never let the tapping finish." I slept with headphones every night. But one evening, my window slid open on its own during a lightning storm. It went frozen. The tapping started, growing louder, counting. I forced myself to close it, but as I did, I heard a voice whisper, "Next time, you'll let me in." The next morning, Mrs. Foster was gone, her unit vacant, belongings left behind. Neighbors said she moved overnight. Weeks later, I still hear tapping at 2:17 a.m. Sometimes I see a reflection in the window that isn't mine. I just hope I never find out what really happens if I let him in. If you ever live across from a window at night in a city, always keep the blinds shut and never answer the tapping. Some visitors aren't looking for a friend. They're looking for a place to stay. Have you ever wondered who really lives in your building? What happened last summer in my city apartment made me question every neighbor I will ever have. My city apartment block was nothing fancy. Cracked walls, flickering bulbs, noisy pipes. Cheap rent meant the building had a shifting cast of neighbors. But when I moved in last spring, only my floor and the old basement studio were occupied. The new tenant moved in quietly. He was old, a wrinkled face, thin white hair, always in oversized brown coats that seemed more suited to November than June. His blinds stayed shut, and from my window above, I never saw him leave for work or come home. Some nights, while reading, I heard footsteps dragging in the hallway at 3 a.m., Always slow, always heavy. One night, I stayed up for an assignment and heard the elevator groan open. I peeked through my peephole and caught a glimpse of the tenant shuffling out, shoulders hunched, carrying a battered duffel bag. The air in the corridor felt cold and metallic. He turned, and for a split second, his eyes caught mine. They were completely gray, almost cloudy like smoke trapped in glass. After that, strange things started happening. My mail started showing up with faded, muddy stains, and water streaks appeared along the apartment. Whilst the stains grew every morning, always dark brown, almost red, I'd wake up to a metallic smell. And once, I saw water drip from the ceiling onto my bathroom mirror, leaving rusty streaks. Other tenants noticed too. Someone reported seeing the man at odd hours, pacing near the basement door, but never using a key. The landlord brushed it off as old plumbing in odd hours. Then, one Sunday, the elevator ran non-stop from midnight to dawn. Camera footage flickered, always catching a figure stepping on and vanishing mid-floor, never returning to the basement. At 3 a.m., I heard scraping next to my wall and the sound of muffled speech. A week later, maintenance came to check the basement studio after my repeated complaints. I watched from the hallway as the landlord opened the door. A smell like rotting leaves hit me instantly. The room was cloaked in dust, old books scattered, a broken radio crackling static from the corner. In the center sat the tenant in his brown coat, arms folded neatly, staring straight ahead. His skin looked gray and waxy, hands trembling slightly as if caught mid-motion. The landlord whispered, He's not alive." Suddenly, the radio crackled louder. The screen on the wall blinked with static. The police came, recorded the scene, and covered the body. They found letters in the room written in shaky, slanted handwriting. Most were addressed to tenants above, warning them not to open the elevator after midnight. After the removal, things felt lighter for a week, but the elevator kept running at 3 a.m. Always empty, the doors opening and closing as if someone invisible was still riding. The landlord shared the old tapes. The tenant had died 3 weeks before anyone noticed. Yet, every night after his death, someone kept using the elevator, shuffling up and down, pausing at my floor. One night, my phone buzzed with a motion alert. The hallway camera lit up with a gray shadow, standing silently outside my door. When I checked the footage, the timestamp always read 3:03 a.m. The same moment the water stains would reappear. Now, whenever I come home late, I avoid the elevator, stare at the floor, and double-lock my door. Sometimes, I hear slow footsteps pass my door, fading into static. I don't peek anymore. Some neighbors moved out after the incident. But sometimes, behind closed doors, I hear a radio crackle, and a heavy, slow shuffle like the tenants still searching for someone who will finally let him in. Double-lock your door tonight. Sometimes, the people who live closest aren't really alive at all. Everyone has odd neighbors, but what if the person living right next to you wasn't really a person at all? What happened to me last winter changed the way I see my street, and maybe it'll change the way you see yours. I live in a small neighborhood, a dead-end street, just 10 houses arranged in a circle. We all know each other at least. We used to. Last December, our block got a new resident. The house beside mine, empty 4 years, finally sold. The day the moving truck came, I watched from my window, but something felt wrong. The neighbor didn't have family with her. She only had boxes, no furniture, no decorations. She never turned on any lights at night. I went over to introduce myself. She answered the door without a word. Pale skin, huge eyes, and a voice that sounded hollow. She didn't make small talk. Just watch me. I told her my name. She nodded. She said hers was Clara. At first, I figured she was just shy. But things got weirder, fast. Every night, her living room flickered with blue light, never lamps, only screens. Sometimes 3 or 4. Once, I heard voices too many for one woman, but never saw anyone leave or enter. Neighbors noticed too. Packages kept arriving, but nobody ever saw her sign for them. On trash day, her bins never went out. One snowy night, I saw her through my window, standing in the yard, staring at the sky. I waved. She turned, and I swear her eyes glowed in the dark. After weeks of strange behavior, anxiety crept into our street. My friend Mike came over. We decided to use his drone to see inside her backyard. The drone's video feed showed odd patterns scratched into the snow, perfect circles around her house, no footprints near them. Later that week, a neighbor's cat vanished. 2 nights later, my mailbox was filled with shredded paper pages of biology, textbooks, and old road maps. I knocked on a door, desperate for answers. No response. But the next night, I found a message etched onto my patio window, backwards. Do not look. That Friday, my phone buzzed. Mike sent a picture Clara, digging in her backyard with bare hands. At 2 a.m., my Wi-Fi glitched. My camera app opened on its own and started recording video, facing the street. I couldn't stop it. I looked outside. I saw Clara standing in front of my door. She wasn't wearing shoes or a coat, just the same blank stare. She pressed her hand against the door. My lights flickered. My phone buzzed a second time. Don't let her in. Freaked out, I called the police. By the time they arrived, she was gone. They said no one saw anyone leave. No footprints in the snow. After they left, I found a single page taped to my front door. It said, in perfect handwriting, "You will forget tonight." The next morning, Clara's house was completely empty. No furniture, no boxers, not even dust. I asked every neighbor, but nobody remembered her except Mike, who simply moved out a week later. Now, some nights, my backyard motion sensor goes off, but nothing's ever caught on camera. Every time the lights flicker, I remember her glowing eyes. If you move, or if your neighbor's off, pay attention. How well do you know who or what lives next to you? If you have your own story, share it. And whatever you do, don't let them in.